Hi, this is Brett Douglas. In tonight's video, I'm going to talk about something Joe Scarborough said the other day on NBC News. He's a very liberal person, and he said something that was quite wrong. He mentioned the dream of America. There is no dream of America. Ellis Island was closed. He should have said American dream, which is a hogwash term. But he said dream of America. Dream of America is a phrase used for Ellis Island. Ellis Island was closed in 1954. He said Donald Trump is destroying the dream of America. Now, the American dream, Lindsey Graham was correct the other day when he said there is no right to come to America. Both of those are hogwash. The right to come to America is something that the liberals are starting to say. Ellis Island's been closed since 1954. And first of all, there was never a right to come to America. We have laws. It's a privilege. If they do it legally, they can come to America, but it's not a right. Now, the phrase that was invented by a man named, what was it? I got it right here. James Tuslow Adams in 1931. It was in a book he wrote. He was a historian. And in the book title, the word was democracy. So right there we know he's a liberal man. Now, these privileges are for Americans, American citizens. They're not for criminal aliens crossing our border illegally. So that's something to think about right there. Lindsey Graham has been coming along quite nicely, coming back to his real party, a Republican. He was very liberal for a while until his buddy McCain passed away. And now that he's gone, he can come back to his senses. Because McCain, if you remember, before his death, he turned quite liberal after he had cancer, which was quite sad. Okay. American dream. You hear it all the time now, especially since Trump has been in office. The American dream is a opportunity. We have an opportunity to be successful in America. It's not a right. The right is the opportunity for legal citizens of America, not criminal aliens that go through tunnels or come to airports illegally. This is for Americans. And we have to remember this when we go vote in the midterms. Make sure the senators and the governors and the representatives are all anti-immigration. We don't need immigration now. A little while ago, Senator Rubio from Florida said we have 1 million immigrants every year, which is true in a way, but actually half of them are already here. They just became legal. So it's really about 500,000 a year. I still think that's too much. Now, that's just the legal ones. The illegal ones, we don't know. We don't vet these people. Now, okay, now I'm going to go back to the phrase that Joe Scarborough used when he says, dream of America. This is in reference to Ellis Island. That's where it came from. The other one was American Dream, was in reference to James Tuslow Adams, the historian, that the liberal one that invented that term in 1931 from his book that included the word democracy in the title. The term Dream of America was in reference to the legal people coming to America from 1892 to 1954 when Ellis Island was closed. And they were all vetted. The people illegally coming across the border, they're not vetted. They're very dangerous. That's a very, very dangerous thing when people are not vetted and they're living in our communities. We don't know if they're rapists, murderers, or wanted somewhere. And now you hear about another caravan of 4,000 people coming all at once, planned by the liberals for midterms. They think that this will help them get votes. It's going to backfire on them. I bet it will. So I just want to clear up those few things. The American dream is totally different from the dream of America. Lindsey Graham was quite correct there when he said, there is no right to come to America. It's a privilege for people that do it legally. And I'm actually for, cutting that back probably about 90%. Now I'm going to go over a few more things that were highlights in the news. There's so much in the news, I can't go over all of it. Before I go on, I want to take the opportunity to mention QAnon. That's a very good source of information. If nobody's heard of it that's watching this video, I urge you to Google that QAnon, or you can go to YouTube and listen to that X22 report. I'm not going to get into great detail about that. When you go into it, this video is describing on what it's about and everything. It's kind of if you remember back, WikiLeaks, Julian Assange and all that, this is like I consider a more modern version of it. Lionel Nation is another YouTube source that man talks about it quite a bit. He uses that phrase QAnon. So that's a good source of information for him. And that's a popular station, and he's a smart man, so I have some trust in QAnon. X22 report. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump and Zionism. This is something where I'm not happy with Donald Trump. Unless David Duke is correct when he says that this is a plan of Donald Trump and he's planning on taking control over them, being the boss of Israel, and not listening to Bibi Netanyahu, taking all his advice and listening to him. Don Black says that from Stormfront Radio that he's making a mistake. He thinks that Don Black believes that Donald Trump gives a little to Israel and they'll remember it and give back to him. This won't work. Globalism is where Zionism, how would I say this? Globalism is something that Zionism wants for America, but not for Israel. They want everybody in Israel to be Jewish, and they want everybody to cross the borders illegally into America for diversity, for votes. So, because illegal aliens, when they're able to vote, they will vote Democrat, liberal, pro-Israel. And Israel has been robbing us for many, many years through the feds. And now the Federal Reserve, this is something that's interesting, something I like about Donald Trump recently, every once in a while you get, he says some things, especially lately, about them raising rates and everything, that he's going to go after the Federal Reserve. He's been accomplishing quite a bit. He just had his 19th hostage returned to America. I have that name right there. What was his name? I'll find it. Andrew Brunson. He was a preacher of a small chapel, about 25 people in Turkey, and he was held for a couple years, and he was brought back. The only communication he had was through a window with his wife for 30 minutes a week. But he says it wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought it was, which is good news. But it's very nice to have him back. He said a prayer for Donald Trump in the Oval Office. He seemed like a nice man. Okay. These are... let's talk about Stormy Daniels, the horse face thing. I just found that funny anyways. Liberal media is using that term that Donald Trump called her, to make him look bad again, when she commented on sexual relations with Donald Trump, the president. You don't do that when he's president. So you have to remember, when Donald Trump, he even acknowledges himself, when he retaliates, it's going to be hard, twice as hard as whatever, the person does to him, because he's definitely no beta, he's an alpha male. Okay, now I already covered there is no right to come to America. Lindsey Graham, that makes me so happy that he's coming around again. I remember about 6 years ago, he was a very good senator, and it seems like he's coming back again, which is good. So, heard some funny things that Donald Trump has been saying lately. We already have horse face, called his former employee Omarosa dog, and said Micah Brzezinski, NBC, Joe Scarborough's sidekick, is bleeding from a facelift. See, these are all things that he does to retaliate from when people say bad things about him. So now I'm just rattling on. I just think I covered what I wanted to cover. There's a lot more here, but like I said before, I can only go 15 minutes. So that's about it for right now. Just remember, X22 report, QAnon. If you get anything out of this video, QAnon, if you haven't heard of it, Google it, or go to X22 report, or Lionel Nation on YouTube. Till next time, this is Brett Douglas. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you.